Hey bud, while I'm here gracing my brakes, I figured I'd rotate my tires and show you how to bleed my brakes or bleed your brakes on your Honda HRV. Beautiful. Okay bud, so before we begin, we're going to need the following. We're going to need brake fluid for your brake bleeding. We're going to need one of these, which is actually a brake liquid tester, which actually tests the liquid content in the brake fluid. This is actually good to have to make sure that your brake fluid isn't dangerously too close to having that much water content. For the HRV, you're going to need a 10 millimeter wrench for the front bleeder valve, and then you're going to need an 11 for the rear bleeder valve. And then you're going to need something to bleed the brakes. So what I'm using here is actually a power bleeder. It actually pressurizes the master cylinder and then feeds the master cylinder through pressure. And then because of pressure, kind of like you're adding brakes, it actually expels out the old brake fluid, which is collected from here. Now you have other methods. You could look that up. You have one method where you literally just have the collection can on the bleeder valve, and then you have someone pumping on the brakes. Another way is a vacuum hand pump, where you pump from the downstream, or basically you're pumping it from the bleeder valve as opposed to the master cylinder. And you're just pumping, and it's pulling from the bleeder valve, not pushing from the master cylinder like this is doing. There's many methods to do it, but this is the one that I prefer because it's faster for me. Hondas, they like to do things backwards as opposed to what the common practice is when it comes to brake bleeding your vehicle. Usually the common practice is that going from the master cylinder, you want to start bleeding the farthest away, so that's usually the rear right tire, and then you work your way to whatever's closest to the master cylinder. So now Honda is kind of backwards. So for the HRV, front left, then work on the front right, then go on the rear right, and then rear left. As opposed to going from the back to the front, you're going to the front to the back. I don't know why that's the case, but that's the Honda method. And before I forget, just a brief reminder that brake fluid actually absorbs water, so you may want to wear gloves whenever you're handling brake fluid. You don't want this being absorbed into your skin and causing health problems. Also, brake cleaner is great to clean up any of the brake fluid that gets around. If ever you get brake fluid on your paint, it will start peeling and it'll start causing damage. So brake cleaner is great. We'll remove it, safe, and also it dries quickly. So yeah, that's all you need. To begin, all you gotta do, start off in here, take off the hat. Okay, so what you wanna do is take this off, up there, take this, right, put it on, and stick it in. See? Right away, you can see that it's right, and then let's go put this back in. There you go. That's where we will begin. All right, so we're gonna use the adapter here that you have to pick up. Put that on there, and then just want to make sure it's snug. And then get that on. Now we got it on. So now to test it, what you want to do is you want to add pressure. So you want to make sure you torque this down, and then you want to try pumping.
A few minutes later. 5 minutes later.
Okay, and you should see here, you got, looks like 10 psi, and then you just want to make sure there's no leaks, and then go ahead and just release it. Okay, and then we'll start adding liquid. All right, so we're going to pump it up to 10 psi, fill it up about a quarter of the way, and then let's begin. As we start on the front brakes, we want to go ahead and start by removing the rubber cover that's on the bleeder valve. I'm using a diagonal cutter to simply or slowly pry off the rubber cover. You could use a flat screwdriver, but this is what works for me. Now we're going to go ahead and move to the 10 millimeter wrench, and we'll use the box end, or the close end, I'm sorry. So we'll go ahead and add the catch can along with the wrench and turn it counterclockwise. As you can see here, I'm just slowly turning it just to get it going, and then just a full turn to start the bleeding process. Now I'm going to keep going and going just to let it all go. Just keep an eye on the tube, make sure there's no air coming out. That's usually a sign that there's air seeping in from usually the bleeder valve. Once you've bled out as much and it started to turn clear, go ahead and turn it clockwise to stop it from bleeding. Take a look at what you got. Look at all that dirty stuff that came out. Aren't you happy that you bled it out? Now, moving on, we'll go ahead and remove the tube. Make sure we clean up the surfaces, remove our wrench, clean the nipple or clean the drain valve. What I like to use is a little bit of brake clean to make sure that all the surfaces that had brake fluid is actually all nice and clean. You don't want any of this stuff flinging off to your nice wheels or to your paint, so you want to make sure that it's nice and clean with brake clean. Thankfully, it evaporates quickly, and now you have a nice clean surface for your next step, which is the rubber cover that goes on the bleeder valve. Now, you may have a little hard time popping it in there, just like so. Yep, I dropped it. So you pop that on there, and you should be all set, and you're done. So just like the front brakes, you're going to go ahead and just repeat the process. We're going to remove the rubber cap on the bleeder valve here. Again, I like to use the diagonal cutters, but however we could get them off, go right ahead. And then after that, we are going to go ahead and use an 11 millimeter wrench. Why it's not also a 10, that that beats me, but we're going to use the 11. We're going to go ahead and add the collector can or the collection bottle, and we're going to go ahead and turn the bleeder valve counterclockwise. You're going to watch me struggle here, but eventually I did get it. Came off in the process, but there you go. So you're going to go ahead and turn it, and it's going to just start bleeding. So we're going to go ahead, just let it go until it turns clear, or in my case, I give it about 2 minutes. After that, we're going to go ahead and just close the bleeder valve by turning it clockwise this time to close it, and secure it by giving it a little bit more torque so it doesn't start bleeding as you drive. And now we'll start removing the collection can. We're going to do that by making sure it doesn't drip everywhere. Make sure you put it up right so it doesn't fling off anywhere and into your paint. You're going to remove your wrench, and we're going to slowly just clean the bleeder valve and use my favorite, brake cleaner, to spray it on a rag and to clean the surfaces around the bleeder valve just to make sure there's no other excess brake fluid that's going to fling everywhere and cause damage. Now, of course, just as always, you want to keep it protected, so you want to put the rubber protection on top, and there you go. And with that, what you want to do is just depressurize the system, and then slowly we're gonna go ahead and try it with our Brem's fluid, so you got with brake fluid tester. Okay, just turn it on, and it's in the okay range. And that, and that is how you do your brake fluid.